Everyone, on behalf of the City of Belleville, I'd like to welcome you all to the Hillcrest Park Redevelopment Public Meeting. I'm delighted to be your co-host for the evening and would like to provide some opening remarks. I did recognize some of the names on the participants list. Some of you I've met and some I haven't had the pleasure to meet. My name is Roland K. Brown Cave of the Transportation and Operations Service with the City of Belleville, and I'm the project lead for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Joined with me is Joe Reed, General Manager of Transportation and Operations Services. Additionally, we have Joel Carberant, who will be the project manager on some of the proposed facilities currently, namely the relocation of the Children's Safety Village. We also have Jenna Leslie, who works with our communications coordinator, Marilyn Warren, who will be taking your calls. Mark Coyle, Manager of Information Services, makes this digital platform a possibility and a reality. And lastly, and most certainly not least, we have Mark Wilson and Peter Ling representing the Recreation, Culture, and Community Services. I would just like to review some rules of engagement and participation for this meeting. We ask that we all be respectful, we remain open-minded, and we want you to have your say. Any individual who participates in or comments on conversations that contain profane language or sexually explicit content that is discriminatory on or hateful in nature on the basis of ancestry, color, race, citizenship, ethnic origin, place of origin, creed, disability, family status, marital status, gender identity, gender expression, sex or sexual orientation, that violates any law, rule of regulation, or promotes illegal activity or conduct, that discloses personal data or information about others, and that violates any policies or procedures of the City of Belleville will have their content deleted and may be removed from the online public meeting. The Hillcrest Master Plan is a guideline and framework created to help achieve the city's strategic vision for better park systems and recreation facilities for the community at the former Hillcrest School property and adjacent city park. As briefly mentioned previously, the Children's Safety Village has been designated to relocate onto this site, and as of last year, the new lawn bowls were opened for the 100th anniversary of the Belleville Lawn Bowling Club. The City of Belleville has partnered with Sierra Planning and Management to look at the future. This meeting and survey results are key components seeking public engagement into this. Joining us tonight is the team from Sierra. I'll mention two and let John introduce the others. We have John Hack and Lizzie Cudmore and Naira Banks. John leads Sierra as a professional planner and provides trusted parkland planning and management principles. Through collaboration across disciplines, he has sharp understanding of his clients' needs over the 25 years of experience. John is no stranger to Belleville, as he has been working with the city for many years on brownfield issues and initiatives. With 12 years experience, Lindsay has gained an excellent rapport working directly with clients and the public. Lindsay leads Sierra's team in public engagement across all forms of online and traditional media. Lindsay is a professional planner and brings a fresh perspective. We've been very excited to be working with her. To proceed safely, it has been and required for us to pivot our traditional public meeting open houses to a virtual setting. Our process is a hybrid of both live and recorded content for those who wish to watch at a later date. This will be posted on the city's website after the session. Today's format will allow you a couple of ways to ask questions throughout. You may ask questions via the chat function within the platform. The questions will be received by our consultants and our corporate communications and will be answered as best as possible. If you prefer to call in and ask your question, you may call the number that's listed here, 922-21244. Jenna and Marilyn will be happy to take your questions. We strive to answer all the questions, but depending on the nature of the question and the demand throughout the session, we may not be able to answer all of them. In saying this, we also want to remind residents that after the session, they can always email us at PRMP, which is the acronym for Park Recreation Master Plan, at belleville.ca. We'll always able to take questions through that portal. I'm hopeful that today will stimulate a fruitful interaction and discussion about the future of Hillcrest. Please share your thoughts with enthusiasm, be engaged in this open house and ask questions as they come up to you. Don't be shy, let your voice be heard. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be involved. I also wish to thank the city's mayor and council for their support and the Sierra team for their efforts so far as we process to seek to look to the future. With no further ado, I'll pass it over to the Sierra team to summarize the additional team members joining us tonight.
Great. Thank you very much, Roland, and thank you for an excellent introduction. I'd like to firstly, obviously, say hello to everybody and to thank everyone, both members of the public that have helped us so far in filling out the survey that we'll hear more about this evening, as well as members of staff and corporate communications that have made our job as easy as it is to have this online public meeting. So myself and Lindsay are with Sierra Planning, and joining us tonight is also our colleagues from MBTW. That's John Joyce, who is a professional landscape architect and urban designer, and our two firms. And also in addition, we have Ira Banks from Sierra Planning as well, who's helping to with some of the presentation you'll see, which I think will be very interesting. And our two firms are also the firms that are doing the recreation master plan. And so our job is to make sure that we deal with Hillcrest in terms of what people want for Hillcrest, but make sure that the two plans speak to one another effectively. And that's something that will happen after this evening. But that is our plan. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is just hand the mic over to Lindsay, Ira, and John Joyce, just to go through the presentation. So Lindsay, over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, John. For tonight's meeting, we'll do a presentation, which we'll sort of just give the basics about the process that we're undertaking here and the scope of work. We'll talk a little bit about the site analysis that we've undertaken so far and how we understand the site to work in its existing condition. Then we'll look at some of the neighborhood characteristics of that surrounding area around Hillcrest Park. I'll talk about what we heard from the online survey, and then we'll get into sort of the facility fit or options development component of it. And then we have some questions for you to answer tonight for those that are on the Zoom platform here. So we'll do some live polling after that. And then we'll get into the question and answer. So we'll address those questions that have been submitted through the RSVP function already, as well as any that may come up throughout the presentation. Just submit them through the chat function and we'll be sure to get to them later. Thanks, Ira. So the purpose of this exercise is really to determine the potential future uses for the Hillcrest site as a whole. So as we know, the park has undergone some recent changes, including the demolition of the school, the introduction of lawn bowling facility, and the planned relocation of the Children's Safety Village to Hillcrest. So these changes really identify both the need and the opportunity to sort of plan for the future of the park in a holistic way. The exercise will determine the future uses for the remainder of the site. So that's the former school lands, that's identified in red on that map, as well as the blue parcel, which is the Hillcrest Park. So these sort of consolidated as a total property have a land area of approximately 4.8 hectares. Next slide. So we started the process sort of late 2020, November, December. We undertook site visit to really get on the ground and have an understanding of the park in greater detail. We conducted some background research and analysis, as well as a public online survey, which really looked at sort of who's living, close to the park or beyond, who uses the park and how they use it. So to that, we had 274 responses in total, and it comprised both residents who lived close nearby to the park, as well as those sort of spread broader across the city. So I'll hand it over to John Joyce now to take you through the site analysis slides.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us, everybody who's joining us live tonight. Although most of you are likely quite familiar with the park, for those of you joining us and also those who will be viewing this on YouTube at a later time, just to set the stage for some of the things that we're going to talk about later on in this presentation, we thought it would be helpful just to walk through the existing site as it is today. So this site analysis slide, we have both our diagram and a legend. I'm going to walk you through the legend, and we're going to sort of take a tour around the site, followed by some site photos. So everything on this plan is keyed in. So the blue circle with number 1 on it is the former public school, and I say former because the school has now been demolished. Down in the southwest corner of the property, we have the Hillcrest Community Center. Adjacent to the Hillcrest Community Center is an existing parking lot. Adjacent to the former school site is a playground, which we have some images of. We also have a soccer field, number 5. We have an open lawn and play field, which is number 6 on the south side of the former school. We also have a bit of a hillside, so we do have some topography on site. We do know that there is some tobogganing that historically happened out there. And then most recently constructed out on the site were the lawn bowling greens along Center Street. So we'll be using some of these graphics as we continue through the presentation. So the red line that you see there is the property line. There are several points of entry for vehicles, and those would be the yellow arrows that you see. There are external pedestrian pathways both around the site and providing pedestrian access or connection points into the site. And we've just keyed in here not only the recent demolitions, being the school, and a small section of pathway that was removed as part of the recent lawn bowl green construction, but also the recent construction of the lawn bowl green itself. The next series of slides, Ira, if we can go forward on this. Just a couple of snapshots to give everybody a better understanding, or just remind everybody about what existing conditions are out there right now. So the first image we have is a view from the southeast property corner that looks towards the school site, which, well, would obviously not be there right now. The second is coming across that open lawn area, and we're taking a look at the west side of the former school site. You can see a little of blue and red in the background there, which is actually the playground, the existing playground. Next slide. As promised, the existing playground area there, it is one of the typical, I think most school sites at one point in time had a playground just like this. All the primary colors, the red, the blues, and the yellows, and some fairly basic play elements in there. So this is the playground that exists on site today. And as you sort of spin away from that playground, there's a bit of a lonely bench underneath a tree. But you can also look across the south end of the soccer fields, and in the background on the left side of that slide, you can also see the ground start to mount up towards the peak of what is the hillside that goes down towards the west property line. Next slide, please. This is a view across the soccer field. So we're looking eastward towards what was the school site. And then below that, we have a view from the intersection of McFarland Drive and Center Street, looking back into the park. Next slide. This is a view of the recently constructed lawn bowling greens. So this is located along Center Street on the west side of the property. And then the last image we have for you is a photo of the existing Hillcrest Community Center, which is located at the intersection of Center Street and Safe Boulevard. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor of what's going on the site, or if you haven't been in there for a while, reminds you of what's existing on site. And we'll be back to talk about more great things to do with the site and some ideas for future development in a little while.
So expanding outwards from the site, the neighborhood surrounding Hillcrest Park, that's the subject of our demographic analysis, are the mainly residential dissemination areas that are around the park. The area, it was defined to be compatible with the data that we had from Statistics Canada. So the area we're looking at is bigger than the survey zone that Lindsay will get into momentarily. The neighborhood, it's similar to the city in terms of its population trends. As of the 2016 census, the neighborhood's population was just over 3,500 residents, up nearly 12% from 2001. The city as a whole had growth of just over 10% over that period. The neighborhood's age profile also closely aligns with the city, with the neighborhood's population being slightly younger in general. As with the city as a whole, the neighborhood's population is older in 2016 than it was in 2001. The population over 50 years old went from being 32% of the total to 44%. In 2001, 26% of the population was under 20. That's fallen to 21% as of 2016. The city as a whole is undergoing an aging process at about the same rate. And this is a trend that's common across Ontario and Canada as a whole. The household composition within the Hillcrest neighborhood is also fairly similar to the city as a whole, with two-person households being the largest segment of the population. The average household has 2.3 people, the same as the city. 41% of households in the neighborhood have children, compared with 38% for the city. And 35% of households have at least 3 people, compared with 32% for the city. In other areas, the neighborhood is also is fairly typical. The median household income is similar, just slightly below the city's overall median. In general, the neighborhood, it's growing slightly faster and has a slightly higher concentration of families relative to the city. But although both the current demographics and the trends over time are fairly representative of the city.
Great, thanks, Ira. So the next few slides here just sort of provide a summary of what we heard through the online survey. We've broken it down sort of from a local perspective versus sort of a broader, more citywide perspective. I'll define locally. When we say locally, we mean sort of those households within a 300-meter radius of the park, and the next slide speaks to those that sort of were respondents beyond that 300-meter radius. So when we looked at those responses from the local neighborhood, 73% of respondents said they visited the park at least once per week. And we found here that the park is currently used by these residents for more passive activities, with exercise, relaxation, and play, or taking your kids to play being the most common uses. Whereas more active sport activities, whether it's organized or informal play, were the least common uses. And then in terms of priorities for future use of the park, a majority of these residents identified an enhanced playground area as one of their top 3 priorities. Other popular responses for priorities included development of a splash pad or water play features, enhancing the tree canopy, so making sure that there's more trees on site than currently exist and making sure they're retained. Rest and seating areas was important, as well as an off-leash dog park were the top sort of 4 things that came to the top there. Next slide, Ira. So when we look at the responses from those sort of beyond that local 300-meter radius, we see that 28% had visited the park at least once per week. And similar activities were undertaken, with the top three being exercise, playing, and relaxing again. When we talk about the priorities, over half of the respondents identified an enhanced playground area as their top priority again. And then here we also heard about priorities for sport courts, as well as water play, tied for second priority. Next slide. So as part of the analysis that's been completed for the Parkland and Recreation Master Plan, I've sort of highlighted some of the key items here that we know. So Hillcrest is used by both the local neighborhood as well as those across the city for some of those citywide facilities, including the new lawn bowling facility and the future Children's Safety Village, which will attract visitors from across the city and potentially beyond. We know that there's a lack of sport courts within the city overall. That includes basketball, pickleball, tennis. The city does not currently provide any outdoor court facilities for public use within the parks network. And there's also a gap in sports fields and ball diamond distribution within Eastern Belleville. So most of the fields and diamonds are really concentrated on the west side of the river. And the online, the online survey for this project really confirmed that the park does serve mostly local residents, but does have that sort of broader draw as well. With the Hillcrest, and as Ira noted, the Hillcrest neighborhood has a similar demographic to that as sort of the citywide demographic or composition. So consideration of aging populations and families are equally important when we're thinking about what amenities to be included in here. They need to appeal to multiple generations and really enable some of those intergenerational interactions. So I'll hand it back over to John Joyce to walk you through the development of the facility fit options.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. So before we jump right into showing you some preliminary facility fit options that have been done for Hillcrest, I just want to set the table a little bit and go through a couple of things that we go through as designers when we are thinking about what parks could potentially be as they're being redeveloped. So really the whole point of the next few slides is to get some of those ideas out in front of you, to give everybody out there something to think about, and maybe also to get some creative juices flowing, and provide a little bit of clarity when we start talking about those facility fit options to you as to what it is exactly we're talking about. So the first thing we like to do is we like to establish goals. So in this case, it's a redevelopment goal for Hillcrest. And quite simply, the goal for Hillcrest is to design and construct an innovative, environmentally responsive, all-season park that effectively integrates existing and proposed park amenities. We know there's several elements out on the park, in the park right now, that are going to remain. So we want to incorporate those existing facilities with those that are proposed, but do that in a way where we have some sort of regard for not just the existing infrastructure, but also some of the unique natural features of the site. Next slide, please. A couple of design considerations to keep in mind. So we've got three main ones here, and the first is that parks should be accessible and inclusive. So when we're talking about parks, we need to understand that the goal of a park is, yes, to provide physical activity or opportunities for it, facilitate social interactions, and parks do a really great job of providing people within a neighborhood or a community with a sense of belonging. But they also need to contribute to improved mental and physical health. I think that's something we can all appreciate with what we've been through with COVID-19 in the last year or so. And with this, parks also need to either meet or ideally exceed barrier-free accessibility requirements. They do need to be spaces for all people. And with that, they need to provide equitable access to all residents or visitors to the city. And that would be regardless of their age, ability, ethnicity, gender, orientation, or income. Further to this, we are all getting older, but demographics of Canadians, we are as a nation getting older. And we really need to look for opportunities for programming for adults and seniors. It's becoming a big trend in park design across the country. And we want to bring those ideas to the city of Belleville and Hillcrest Park specifically. And parks need to be multifunctional spaces. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, to a park, you're trying to attract users and improve user experience overall. So to the extent possible, what you're trying to do is create facilities that can be inflexible, they can be multi-use, they can be multi-seasonal. But also you're trying to safeguard the park against the future. We don't know what trends are going to happen. We don't know how demographics in a community are going to change. So when we look at flexible design solutions, it allows the park to be adaptive over time. Next slide, please. So beyond the design considerations, we also have some site considerations. We know that the new amenities that are placed within this park will need to be located in consideration for the adjacent uses. Now, on three sides of this park, we have residential, and on the other side, we have an industrial or commercial type use. So wherever we're placing elements within this park, or proposed elements, we need to be looking at how those might impact our neighbors. The new elements need to be located in consideration with the existing park amenities, which I mentioned previously. There is a really nice existing rolling terrain to the park. It's not just a flat green space. And there are quite a few mature trees out there. And I know one of the goals within the city is not just maintaining the existing tree canopy, but enhancing the tree canopy where possible. So when we're looking at the design, we need to look at those existing trees as having value and make sure that to the extent possible, we're incorporating them into the park program. We need to look at, and John Hack mentioned this earlier at the intro, we are looking at neighborhood communities, but because this team is also looking at the master plan for Belleville as a whole, we're also looking at community-wide priorities. So as part of the programs for the site, we're thinking local, but we're also thinking bigger picture to Belleville. And again, just to underline the fact that any redevelopment here should support park use through all seasons. So we're not looking for a park that can be used only when the snow isn't flying, but parks that can be used 12 months out of the year. And then finally, and most importantly, when we're looking at park programs for sites, we are first and foremost looking at opportunities to do three things: play, relax, and explore. And I have a couple of slides here in this deck to show you what I mean by play, relax, and explore. Play itself can mean any number of things. So in this slide here, I'm showing you several images of playgrounds. Now, I mentioned when we were going through the existing conditions that just about every schoolyard in Southern Ontario had the primary color blue, red, yellow playground at one point in time. But playgrounds are so much more than that nowadays. There's different materials that get used, like natural materials like wood. And the play value of some of the features that go into playgrounds are quite amazing. So there's opportunities for different materials, there's opportunities for different play experiences. And whether those materials are in the play structures themselves or on the ground plane, there's a lot to think about when it comes to play. So we're not stuck with our primary color playground structures anymore. So when we're talking about enhanced play, there's definitely considerations and options available to us. Next slide, please. Play can also mean water play, so interacting with water. And that doesn't mean, that can be occur in multiple ways as well. So in the top right corner of this slide, we have gushers coming up from the ground. In the bottom right, we have water being dumped on top of people. It's all about providing different experiences and different opportunities, even opportunities to have a little bit of exploration in that play There's opportunities to create programmed features so that you have a whole series of elements run in a pattern, which provide opportunities for interest year-round throughout the use of the water play. And the little kiddies, quite honestly, love it. Next slide, please. Play can also mean things in hard skill court areas. So it could be a basketball court like the image on the left, but even in that image on the left, you can see that it's being set up for a boot camp to be run. It doesn't have to be basketball specific. It doesn't have to be rectangular. It can be different surfaces. You can add color to it. So really we look at skills courts as multi-use facilities where people can do everything from play an organized sport to learn how to ride a bike for the first time. Next slide, please. Play can also be court sports. So a couple images of pickleball here. Pickleball is without a doubt the largest growing recreation trend in North America. We know from the previous portion of this presentation that there is definitely a pickleball deficit in the city of Belleville. So things like, tennis and or pickleball courts are things that we could explore as part of the program opportunities for Hillcrest. Next slide. And then this is just sort of a collection of other miscellaneous ideas. So play can mean things like fitness equipment. Sometimes we call it adult play equipment. So you can be out, you can be going for a walk or having a run and then stop along the way to engage in some physical activity in the form of boot camp activities, those types of things. It can be in the form of cycling. It can be in the form of running or jogging. In an open field, a large open field, you can program just about anything. It could be ultimate frisbee, like the image that's shown here. You could be throwing a ball around with some friends, or it could be a pickup game of soccer. And of course, keeping in mind the seasonal sport aspect, bottom right corner, we do have a picture of tobogganing. So looking at how areas like open lawn or turf areas can be used multi-season. Next slide, please. So what do we mean by relax? So by relax, it can be any number of things. It can be going to the park and having a picnic with friends or family. It can be sitting at the base of the tree, reading a book, just catching some shade in the outdoors. It could be getting a tan on an open lawn. It could be finding a spot to sit down and just have a break, read a newspaper, people watch, but a rest stop sort of along the way. Or one of my favorite things to do, thing I find most relaxing, is my daily trip to the dog park. There's just something I find relaxing about watching dogs play together. So let's not forget our furry friends in all of this as well. So relax is one of those program ideas we'd like to bring to the park. Next slide, please. And then the last one is explore. And there may be a little bit of overlap between the play aspect of what we've been discussing and explore, but really the idea of explore is this. The park should provide spaces for people to enjoy or discover things they haven't tried before. So that could be yoga on the lawn, or it could be Tai Chi on the lawn, or any of number of things. But a local class that is set up for people within the neighborhood or the community to come and gather and try something new. That could also apply to something like a concert in the park, which is in the top right corner of the screen. So whether it's a concert in the park, or it could be some type of production, a play, or anything like that, providing places and opportunities for those experiences to occur. It could be a local festival, like in the bottom right-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner of the screen. I'm sure at one point the school had some school festivals and things, fundraisers that would have gone on, but there's no reason why parks shouldn't be places where local community events can also continue to happen. And quite honestly, explore can just be getting from point A to point B. So whether people are there to use the park specifically, or whether people are using the park as a transfer from one place to another, and just walking through and enjoying the shade of the trees and the company of a friend, or a four-legged friend in this case. The whole idea of explore, or using the park to be able to explore both the park and surrounds, is really what we're getting at. Next slide, please. So this is the first of two facility fits that I'm going to show you. And the thing about facility fits is all that we're trying to do here is demonstrate the potential or the design opportunities that exist within the Hillcrest site. This isn't the final design. We're not making decisions on what the park design is going to be today, but we're showing you these facility fits as a way of demonstrating ideas. And again, getting the creative juices flowing for everybody who's participating in this today to sort of think about what this park could be or should be to them. So facility fit number one is really just to demonstrate one potential avenue that the design for the park could take. And again, there's nothing set in stone here at all. We're still in the process of gathering data on what people would like or would not like to see within the park. But facility fit option one is a bit of a, I'm going to call it a bit of a passive park design. So again, we'll just walk through the legend quickly. The area that's toned out in gray with the number one on it is our future safety village site. We still have Hillcrest Community Center in the bottom left corner. We still have our lawn bowling courts and the parking that is directly adjacent to those. So what we've done is in this space, we've taken the other areas and tried to figure out exactly what they could be. So in this concept here, this facility fit, what we're showing as number 5 is a playground area with a shade structure. And that shade structure overlooks number 6, which is an open lawn, which has an oval around it that we're suggesting could be a fitness loop. So that could be a hard surface pathway that at intervals along that pathway, people have the opportunity to stop and exercise. There are 4 number 7s on the plan, and those would be fitness stations along that fitness route. Number 8 is a sports court, which also has a shade structure. So that's located towards the bottom right corner of the plan, adjacent to West Street. So it's shown with basketball markings, but it doesn't need to be basketball. It could be lined for roller hockey, or it could be lined with hopscotch, or any number of things, but a multi-purpose court, a hard surface that people can use to undertake whatever activities they would like to undertake within the park. Number 9 is a skate dot. A skate dot, for people who don't know, isn't a full-on skate facility like you would see at Riverside West. A skate dot is just it's a smaller scale element that has a few features in it that provide opportunities for people on skateboards or scooters to sort of hang out and play and, maybe not challenge them to the extent of the large bowls and things that you see in some of these larger skate parks, but gives them an option or opportunities or space to practice their craft. Because it is a craft. I've tried it. I'm terrible. Area 10 in this plan is what we're proposing is a dog park. Now, this would be a fenced facility. So there would be a couple of gates, double gates that would get you in and out of this facility. And it's sort of clustered in the south half of the park, but it would be in and amongst some of the existing trees and things like that that are sitting through there. We are maintaining a toboggan hill, so the toboggan area, which is number 11. And then what we're proposing, not just for this park, but for parks citywide, is a park identification sign. So up at the corner of McFarland and Center Street, which we think is more or less the primary entry, or would be the primary entry for this park, a park identification sign. And then there's a couple of number 13s, and it's the darker green clusters that are spread across the site. Those would be areas where we would be proposing enhanced tree canopy. So connecting all of these spaces, you can see is a bit of a meandering network of pathways that get you from the intersection of McFarland and Center Street in the northwest down to the southeast, or you can get from the northeast corner of the park all the way down to the southwest corner of the park. So really providing a network or a circulation route for people to come in. It sort of meanders, they can come in, walk around, get to each and every one of the facilities that are proposed in this concept. So this is option 1, and we're sort of calling this passive approach. If we go to option 2, so we are calling this an active approach, or at least a more active approach than option 1. So again, this is just to demonstrate the potential of what could happen at the site. This isn't a final design. It's not being constructed at any point. until we go through all of our public consultation processes and all our due diligence with the master plan to determine what the actual program features for this site should be. But if we walk through the legend again, items 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all the same. So that's the safety village, Hillcrest Community Center, the lawn bowling greens, and the parking. And where the change comes is that we've created a bit of a hub right in the center of the park. And it starts with numbers 5, 6, and 7. So number 5, the area that's in pink, is a playground area. To this concept, we've added a spray pad, which is where you see the number 6. And in between these areas, but also overlooking number 8, which is an open lawn or play field, is a large shade structure. And that shade structure can, support daily use, whether it's people just trying to sit in the shade while they watch kids play, or it could be something that's used as part of a program or movie night in the park or something like that that occurs on the open lawn area. So right adjacent to that, number 9, is we're showing 4 pickleball courts. So again, we talked about how there is no pickleball currently in the city of Belleville. We talked about how pickleball is one of the biggest trends or areas of growth in recreation in North America. So why not at Hillcrest? In this, we're showing 4 pickleball courts that are all clustered together in a group. And along with the playground, the water play, and the shade structures sort of create this focal point to the middle of the park. As you enter or as you leave the park, depending on what direction you're coming from, you would pass by number 12, which again is a skate dot, but maybe something slightly larger than what we showed in the previous concept. Number 10 towards West Street are a couple of 3v3 basketball courts. 3v3 basketball is another trend in recreation, partly because it's been recognized as an Olympic sport, and partly because you only need 6 people in order to play as opposed to 10 to 12 people. But it's another trend. So instead of a full-on basketball court, maybe it could be a couple of 3v3 courts. We are still maintaining our toboggan hill at number 11. Number 12 is the skate dot I mentioned previous. 13, again at McFarland and Center, would be an identification sign, and still some clusters of enhanced tree canopy, which are labeled number 14, and there's 3 of those. So those are the 2 facility options that we have to present to everybody today. And again, this is just to demonstrate, what could be, and to get some ideas about things that you might like or you might dislike about the park and the proposed program for the park. So I understand with that, we are going to enter into a live polling section tonight, and I think Jenna is going to help us with that. So we have 9 questions, and what I'd like to do is for everybody who is watching this live, maybe we'll just go through the questions one at a time, and instead of just scrolling through and answering all the questions, there can be a bit of explanation along the way as we go. So the first question we would like to ask everybody is, where do you live? So very close to Hillcrest, that's within a 5-minute walk. Fairly close, which is a 10 to 15-minute walk. Another area of Belleville or outside of Belleville are your options. So if you could think about that for a moment and fill that portion in. Some of the questions that we're asking here today is us just reaffirming some of the things that we've heard or learned in the previous survey. There's people who are joining us tonight who may not have participated in that previous survey. So I appreciate it. If you've already answered this question, please answer it the same way. Otherwise, you'll gum up the works, as they say. Question 2 is, how often do you visit or spend time in Hillcrest Park? And your options there are daily, weekly, monthly, once every few months, rarely, or never. If it's never, we're certainly going to want to know why. Explain yourself, please. But if you could just sort of fill in, pick one of those. And once you've done that, we can move on to question number 3. Question number 3 is, what current features of the park are most valuable to you? So these are existing features within the park. So none of the proposed options that we have just discussed, but what exists there today, and what of those features is most valuable to you? Is it the playground? Is it the play fields and open lawns? Is it the toboggan hill? Maybe it's the community center. If you're a lawn bowler, it could be the lawn bowling greens. Well, even if you're not a lawn bowler, it could be the lawn bowling greens. It could be the variety of walking paths that are out there. or it could be the natural trees and vegetation. We did talk about the natural tree canopy and its importance to the people in the city of Belleville. So if you could pick what's your most valuable, and then move on to question number 4. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we haven't had any answers so far.
No answers so far. So for everybody watching live, please don't be shy. I was told I wasn't allowed to sing or dance, so I can only fill so much time here. So Jenna, maybe you can let me know when we see an answer.
We have one answer now.
One answer, huzzah.
Perhaps, Jenna, you could just indicate which question has been answered, because I think, as John has indicated, in order for us to sort of get the most out of this, it would be very helpful if those that are participating could just quickly fill out the more sort of pro forma questions up front before we get on to some of the more significant questions.
We have about 5 people answered so far, so I think we're okay to continue on with the questioning.
So how many answers for which questions? How many questions have we gotten through?
Top 3 at least, so you can probably continue on with 4.
Okay, so on to number 4. So number 4, 5, and 6 actually go together. So don't panic that you don't know what to answer. In question 4, we're going to ask you your top priority for new activities and features. In question 5, we're going to ask you what your second priority is. And in question 6, we're going to ask you your third. So the options are all the same. So we're really asking for 1, 2, and 3 as far as your priorities go within the next 3 questions. So question 4 is your top priority. Enhanced playground area, enhanced tree canopy and horticultural display, off-leash dog area, open outdoor fitness equipment, skateboard or scooter park, like those skate dots that we were talking about. Maybe it's sports courts. We talked about pickleball, basketball. It could be tennis as well. A sports field. So that would be a dedicated field to a sport like soccer. A washroom or amenity building that supports the park. A water play or splash pad. And if you have any others that are not on this list, you can please feel free to identify in the chat function what those would be. So question 4 is your top priority, so your number 1. Question 5 would be your second priority. So the list is identical, but we're just asking you for your second priority. And question 6 is your third priority. So 1, 2, and 3 is what we're asking for. So we'll take a few minutes here, and maybe if Jenna can let us know when we start seeing responses to questions 4, 5, and 6, that would be wonderful.
It looks like we have about 9 responses so far, so you're probably good to continue.
Good to go. Excellent. We're cruising along. Thank you, everybody, for your help on this. Question number 7. Are there any activities or features that you would not want to see at Hillcrest Park? So these might be, we've talked a lot about what we would want to see or might want to see, but is there anything to those people who are live right now that they would not want to see included in this park redevelopment strategy? Your options again are enhanced playground, enhanced tree canopy and horticultural display, off-leash dog areas, outdoor fitness equipment, skateboard or scooter area, sports courts, sports fields, washroom amenity building, water play splash pad, or again, if you have something that fits in the other category, if you could please specify it in your function. And
just if I could just if there's nothing that is particularly identified as that people don't want, I guess they don't need to answer that particular question by putting in a response if there's nothing there which is deemed to be not acceptable.
So that falls in the if you don't have something good to say, don't say it category of things. Is that right, John?
I think so. Yeah.
Excellent. So don't feel that you have to be negative, I think is the message there from John Hack. Question 8. Which design approach do you prefer? So I showed you two design approaches. So facility fit number 1 was a more passive approach to park programming. And facility fit number 2 was a more active approach to park programming. So if you could either select one of those, or there is a third option, there is the option to combine some of the things that you saw in the passive approach with some of the things that you saw in the active approach. So if you would like to see a combination of both active and passive approach within the park design, that is an opportunity that is available to you as well. So while you're answering that, we have one final question, which we're going to use the chat function to respond to. And that question is, in your opinion, are there any other park amenities or features that should be considered in the redevelopment of Hillcrest? So we've given you a list of things that you might like, a list of things you might not like. So this is your opportunity to tell us if there's something on that list that wasn't identified or that was missed that you think should be considered as an amenity or feature for Hillcrest Park. And we will be taking those responses via the chat function. And I think that's my heavy lifting done for the day. I think I'm done. Am I, Lindsay?
Yes, thanks, John.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like we're holding steady at 11 votes, so I'll go ahead and close the poll.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll just go through the results here while we wait for people to put their thoughts in number 9 into the chat function, if you have any thoughts. So where do you live? I guess how many, we have 11 people here, so 6 of those live outside of Belleville. Interesting. Others, 2 live very close to Belleville and 3 are in other areas of the city. How often do you visit or spend time in Hillcrest Park? Weekly is the most common answer, which is confirmed sort of what we heard through the survey for those local residents. Some said never, rarely, occasionally. Which current features of the park are most valuable to you? Lawn bowling greens was a popular one, followed by trees and vegetation and the playground, which is similar to what we heard through the survey results. And then in terms of priorities, so top priorities, enhanced playground area, tree canopy had a vote, and then sports courts were also important to a few people, and washroom and amenity building was identified by 3 people as the top priority. And water play as well, we've had two responses there. Second priority for new activities or features, washroom amenity building had 4 respondents identify that one, followed by enhanced playground and sports courts and water play again. That's similar to what we heard through the survey as well. And then third priority, tree canopy was enhanced tree canopy and horticultural displays or enhanced vegetation within the park was the top response for the third priority, followed by washroom amenity building and outdoor fitness equipment. So number 7, are there activities or features that you would not want to see at Hillcrest Park? Off-leash dog area was identified by 3 people as something that they don't want to see there, followed by skateboard or skate dot, and then washroom amenity building was identified by 2 people. They wouldn't want to see that there as well. So in terms of design approach, do you prefer, 2 people preferred the passive approach, which was the facility fit number 1. 4 people preferred the more active approach, which was facility fit number 2. And 5 people wanted to see a combination of sort of elements from both the active and the passive program. So great, thank you very much everyone for answering. those questions. And I think we have some responses coming through the chat here about some other considerations for the park. Yeah, just I think it's reiterating some of the comments that we saw through there, like no washroom facilities close to some of the other areas. Potential for a clubhouse adjacent to the lawn bowling greens with washroom facilities maybe to be accessible for the players. And maybe parking facilities for the lawn bowling green or expanded parking facilities, as well as consideration for parking for the safety village as well. So that sort of concludes the live polling. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. We'll move on to the question and answer period now. So we'll start with those questions that we received prior to the meeting through those submitted by those people that have RSVP'd and that are on the Zoom call here. So Ira, maybe you could just sort of go through the questions and we'll send representatives from the city will collaborate in the answers as appropriate.
Sure. We got a number of questions about plans for a new clubhouse facility for the lawn bowling facility. In general, the questions are just I would like to understand the plans for a new clubhouse facility, and what are the plans to service the lawn bowling club. So I'm not sure who would be best suited to answer that, but
well, I'll just kick off in terms of just what we know about the community center building, because that's the existing building to the south, and there was some consideration of it. So that building itself, it's it's in relatively good shape. There is some need for some work on the exterior facade, but the furnace is relatively new. It has a limited kitchen in it, and there has been some roof work, I understand. So as a certainly a sort of a medium term building that can be programmed and used, and the idea is it is currently going to be used with lawn bowling. That is one option going forward that I think we probably will anchor around. But we certainly recognize some of the comments that I'm reading here about, can we expect to see a clubhouse more adjacent to the actual lawn bowling, which would obviously improve access for washrooms and things of that nature. So that's something we'll take note of. But I think from the perspective of our site planning here, we have a building that's had some investment in it recently, and that's probably something that we would sort of take as an anchor going forward for at least the midterm, at least from the consultant's perspective. But perhaps the city has some comments as well.
I think, John, that you encapsulated that well. There has been some previous discussions of possibilities that the Belleville Lawn Bowling Club has expressed to us and also has investigated. So there's no definitive plan for that.
The next question we got was how big is the site? I think Lindsay, you said it was 4.8 hectares. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, and then what are the timelines like for this project? And are there more opportunities for future input? And how does this fit into the Parks and Recreation Master Plan?
Perhaps I'll just jump in here. So the timing is designed. So the city, in looking at the opportunities for Hillcrest and getting us going on this in the late fall of last year, along with the safety village being announced as it being relocated, was designed very much to fit with the timing for the master plan, so that the two plans spoke to one another. So really both, once we have input today, our job is now to then produce some reporting and to consider the inputs in terms of, as John has indicated, the design fits. They're not really concept plans. They're not certainly not final plans, but to reflect on what people have told us that they want that hybrid, for example. And then to provide a report, and that would go to staff, and then that would find its way to council for its consideration. And similarly, that can happen in the next several months. And of course, the master plan's on exactly the same time frame as well. So by late spring, we should have both plans completed in terms of consultant recommendations, and then the city will consider those in detail for the next stages.
Okay. And the final question that we received was, what is the current zoning of the site, and will that be subject to change?
The current zoning of the site is twofold. The old school property was community, and the park parcel is zoned open space. So any of the proposed changes or additions fit within the zoning, so there would be no requirement for any changes in the zoning.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I don't think we've received any new questions yet, but if you are considering, if you're asking a question, please go ahead.
There is one question, perhaps, John. John, I think you may have answered it in your site fits. One question is, I'm just going to read from the list here. If there are not separate parking lots for the lawn bowling and safety village, then there is not enough parking. Perhaps we could speak to that issue in terms of what you've shown.
Yeah, so in the facility fits that we showed a dedicated area for the safety village, which is large enough based on our review of the existing footprint of the current safety village, would accommodate both the safety village plus some parking space. So I think the intent would be is that there's some dedicated parking for the safety village in the northeast corner of the site, and the lot that is in the southwest corner of the site would remain. So the plan's not to have everybody park in one spot and then traverse this site depending on what it is that they're trying to do, but maintain two separate parking locations.
We just received another question. In the safety village design, will there be classroom facilities incorporated into it?
That has not been raised. It's a great question, and we'll take that. We can't currently answer that question because the actual design and specifics of the safety village have not been determined, but we will take that back as and look based on what was and what we're looking forward to in the future.
We were also asked what exactly is the safety village, just as in a general description.
Maybe I could defer that to Joel, who as identified previously would be the project manager. Joel, could you speak to that question?
Sure. The safety village is a small village design looking thing with roads and various buildings, railroad crossings and stuff like that. And its purpose is to teach children road safety, and how it works in the city, railroads, crossings, all that kind of thing. Hope that helps.
Then we have a comment. The current safety village has no parking and is too small, but I think that's been addressed by the discussion about what the design for the new one is like. The next comment we received was the city indicated that the current community center is a short-term plan as a lawn bowling community location. If you add items to the north of the greens, we'll be unable to relocate there.
So yes, again, as John Joyce has indicated, the facility fits are just concepts. All comments, additions or deletions or anything would come from this process, and also from any additional comments or responses. When it comes to facilities relating to the Belleville Lawn Bowling Club, there has been some discussions, but nothing has been definitive with them. Mark or Peter, would you like to add to that at all? Thank you.
No, Roland, we were together here and we don't have anything more to add on that. Sorry.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, I think that's the most recent comment that we've received. Does anyone, any of the other attendees have anything? Oh, okay, just a comment. If anyone wants to learn more about the Safety Village, they can visit csvbelleville.com.
I think one of the other comments that we received, maybe as part of question 9 of the live polling, it relates to the Hillcrest Community Center there. It says, I was expecting to see a clubhouse adjacent to the bowling greens so that there would be washroom facilities that can be accessed mid-game. So I think that's, I just wanted to recognize that we've received that, and I think that's been addressed, unless there's something else, Roland, maybe that you'd like to add in that regard.
I think that captures it well. Thank you.
Right.
We have a question. Zwick's Park has many plumbing problems. If this park is if there's going to be a water park, will we have any similar problems?
So I can respond to that. When the Belleville Lawn Bowling Club lawn bowling greens were put in, we put in a separate line to supply the lawn bowling irrigation system. There is sufficient and excessive amounts of capacity to add to that line. It's actually a significant line that runs up Center Street and then feeds in. So water supply, it certainly is not an issue at this location.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
And just to note that I think with the communications department will be posting a version of the presentation on the website, on the Hillcrest project website. So that'll be available to view. And then if anyone has any additional comments or questions, they can submit through the email address that's also provided on that page. I believe it's Hillcrest at belleville.ca. So we'll be more than happy to continue to address comments and questions over the next couple of weeks as they may come up.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just maybe just advertise, the recreation, the parkland and recreation master plan is a little bit more than midway complete, in as much as we've done a lot of the analysis and we've had one round of significant consultation with everyone on citywide issues. But if you are looking at the city's website and following that process, as we may have mentioned, in the next couple of months, there's going to be more opportunities for us to have another public meeting. We had one in November, and to have the draft directions and principles, the vision, the mission that is important to that plan, really very important to drive everything going forward. That's going to be subject to further opportunities for public input. So beside this particular project for Hillcrest, if you are interested, please keep an eye on the recreation master plan as well, because it'll be coming back soon for discussion.
We did get one more question. Do plans include the existing memorial bench with new benches added as well as lighting?
So I can respond to that one. So any existing dedication benches that were on the property or slightly relocated in order to accommodate the new lawn bowls, they were relocated in positions that would not adversely affect any potential planning or redevelopment of the site. So those will stay where they are. That would be the plan. And then lighting, yes, the way we're looking at it is a very holistic approach. Lighting is a component of park amenities as well as garbage, seating, and other amenities, places for people to put their bikes, all of those sort of things.
Thank you. We got another question. Will the consultants be speaking with the Safety Village and Bowling Club to understand how they function within the park?
Maybe I'll answer that. Yeah, we're certainly very happy to. I mean, as everyone is aware, Joel is the city expert working on the issue of the Safety Village. So I think we would defer to the city's process of establishing the basis for the footprint of the Safety Village at this site and what it needs. As it relates to the bowling club, Lindsay, perhaps you can remind us if we received a user group survey from bowling for the master plan, which I think we did.
We did, yes.
Yeah, but if it is valuable to have a conversation, I think we'd be happy to do so.
Okay, so we have another question. As a Belleville Lion with a big interest in the Safety Village, thank you for this information. What will be the needs as far as fundraising, or where is all the money coming from?
That's a great question. Joel, did you?
Yeah,
speak
I
to
can
this?
answer that. Yeah, we haven't got that far yet. We're still in the design, which item goes where and how it's laid out and all that. Once we get that far, we'll come up with an approximate estimate of how much we need and how much we'll need to fundraise. So it's a little bit down the road yet.
I can speak somewhat towards Hillcrest Park and any fundraising or where the money is coming from. One of the reasons for doing the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is that this is actually the very first Park and Recreation Master Plan for the city of Belleville. Park planning and development was done on an ad hoc basis and really didn't take into consideration the changing dynamics of the city, didn't take into consideration the growth and how the city is changing. And through the wisdom of council, mayor and council, and also finance, was really a direction to basically stop on a lot of development within desired development within parks and start this process so that we could take a holistic view on our parklands, including developments and other key shareholders, so that we could develop the park system within the city of Belleville and accommodate a lot more and better parks for the community. So I hope that that answers the question. And towards fundraising, we have partnered with a great number of various community groups, Rotary, Kiwanis. I mean, I know that if I start to list them all, I'm going to miss somebody, who have invested into Belleville Parks in the city of Belleville. Also the Lions Club as well. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, that appears to be the last question, but I guess we can give another minute if anybody is in the process of typing another question or comment.
Okay, so we're at 6:45. Based on the fact that we don't have as of yet any more questions for us, I'd like to take the opportunity to first thank everybody that participated, that answered the questions, that provided insight through the chat and comments. I'd like to remind everybody that at any point through the next number of months, as John Hack has indicated, you can be a part of the Park and Recreation Master Plan, and I really encourage all of you to sign up to keep notified on changes and things that are happening on the city website. There's a dedicated page for the Park and Recreation Master Plan. And we have right there, you will also find a email address that you can also connect with us if there's anything additional that you would like to provide in our public engagement. I'd like to thank Sierra for giving us a really concise, clear, and open visioning session to help us look at where we're headed with the great analysis of the statistics and the survey and putting that all together. We just have really appreciated how this looks to develop our future for parks. If nobody else has anything to say, I would like to again thank you all and wish you all the best for the evening and tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.